Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the series of Fortunate Events podcast brought to you by who? Still me, always me, MeMeCherry. And I am joined by another most returning guest, Miss Emily Lubin. Woo!
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, comedian, podcaster, and queen of body positivity.
Oh, but I don't know if I would call myself a queen. I mean, yes, I would, but not of body positivity. I'm more of a duchess, I think.
Well, I mean, Keith's intro was like catfisher of daddies. So, hey, queen of body positivity, not a bad one. So, we'll kick it off for anyone who is new to the podcast and doesn't know who Miss Emily Lubin is. She is the co-host of the Hot Mess Comedy Hour with Miss Andrea Allen. And she also has her own podcast, RIP Diets. Tell me about the RIP Diets, given that's like the most recent baby project of yours.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I started it in the quar, and it was a project that I had been wanting to do for a while, but I never had the time. And then, surprise, surprise, now I have all the time in the world and I don't have to go anywhere. So I was able to focus on it. And basically, I went through an eating disorder. I want to say maybe seven years ago. It got really bad, and then I entered recovery probably around 4 years ago.
Wow.
Which it kind of led me down a path of rediscovering how we think about food and bodies as a society, and how we kind of treat it and talk about it, and really opened my eyes to like the language that we use. And I just wanted to share it with other people, because we are so brainwashed in this society by diet culture and constantly being told that we need to shrink ourselves to a degree that we start to believe that that's true. And I wanted to kind of include other people on all of this new knowledge that I had learned, but in an entertaining way, and obviously not from a clinical perspective, because I'm not qualified at all. I'm not a doctor.
What?
I know, right? Wouldn't that be crazy if I was like in quarantine? I got my nutritionist certification. I went to medical school. Nobody knew.
You and Tracy, you're not a doctor.
Right. I'm not a doctor, but it's supposed to be entertaining. It's supposed to be like a way that people can understand this stuff, because it's a lot to get your head around. But I'm really loving it. I'm really loving the community that I'm building around it, and how many people who have never even heard of intuitive eating before are starting to do it now. From listening to the podcast, it makes me feel like I have a purpose in this purposeless time that we're living in. So it's been great.
I started struggling with my relationship with food in my early 20s. It was very tied to a relationship. Physicality was very important in this relationship, and I was surrounded by literal strippers and porn stars, and I was expected to look like them. You know what I mean? And after that relationship, some of that still stuck with me, and my weight has yo-yoed over the years. Like right now, I'm kind of like on the heavier side of what my scale, kind of like fluctuation is, and I'm kind of okay with it right now. The only thing is I have but and it was interesting because I heard you on the last time that you were on Keith and the Girl, and you guys kind of started debating about what is the root cause of certain things and how much weight gets blamed for certain things, that maybe it's aging, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And so right now I'm dealing with back issues, which part of me is like, well, I'm guessing the extra whatever I'm carrying around isn't helping, but I'm also fucking 40. You know what I mean? And twerked for 20 years.
I mean, you got those big old titties, and I I don't know personally because I don't have them, but I know that, there is that has been linked to back pain, and that is a very legitimate thing. I always say on the podcast, like, I am not discounting that that diet or weight can affect certain health issues or certain, issues that we have that we could go see a doctor about. Like, I'm not saying that weight is a non-issue and that it has zero effect on our health, because I could never make that claim. Again, I'm not a doctor, but I do think that weight gets blamed for more things than it's actually responsible for.
Yeah.
And I think that weight stigma is a really big problem, especially in this country. We are so focused on telling people to lose weight, even when, maybe by a BMI scale, which, by the way, is extremely inaccurate.
And homophobic. No, I'm kidding.
Kind of, though. Like, it skews like unequally towards men and women. Like, BMI is something that should be thrown out altogether. But, even if you're just bordering on overweight on that scale, you will have a doctor. And I know, because I've experienced this. Doctors will tell you, do you eat a lot of sweets? Do you need to cut down on this, that, and that? Even if you're perfectly healthy. And the same could be said for somebody who's higher up on that scale, who has a legitimate health issue. The doctors will often tell them, okay, lose weight and then come back to me. And then if you're still having this problem, then we'll address it, which I truly believe is a major reason why we link all of these diseases and illnesses and ailments to being overweight, because the root issue never actually gets treated because of weight stigma.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I know a bunch of thin people who are shoveling blow up their nose every weekend. Like, I'm sorry, they're not healthier than me, And
nobody ever says a word about it. That is also like a really big issue. The fact that we think we can just look at somebody and just know if they're healthy based on the way they look. And that's something that I struggled with for a really, really long time. I got into fitness at one point and followed all of these fitness Instagrammers. And I had this image in my mind of like, okay, that's what fit looks like. That's what healthy looks like. When really, I had no fucking idea what that person's life looked like. All I knew is what their body looked like and how they were telling me that they achieved it. And also on top of that, my body is not the same as anybody else's body. We could all do the same exercises and eat the same things on the same schedule, and we would all still have different bodies.
Yes.
Body diversity is like a very natural and normal and healthy thing. And I think we have been brainwashed to think that we all need to aspire to be the same, and we're not the same.
Yes.
And we should celebrate not being the same.
Yes. Yeah, I was watching there was this Vice series. I don't think she's done it in a while. I think it was called States of Undress, and it's this model who like travels the world, but it's like having this conversation about how fashion meets culture and just like that intersection around the world. And she was in a specific part, I can't remember the country, so I'm not going to like try to mess it up. But basically that country's culture, their body, desired aesthetic is mine. And that like women are like injecting themselves with syringes full of bouillon water because somehow they think that that's going to get them thick. And like, that's like, the desired body type. And sometimes I have to remind myself that like, like I'm not J-Lo, and that's okay.
Yes. But you are Hispanic, right?
Yes.
Well, I know that in a lot of, for a lot of Hispanic people and in a lot of definitely like South American cultures, my sister's best friend growing up was Brazilian, and she was always, gorgeous, stunning girl, like borderline, like, what do they call it? Jailbait. Like she was a dancer, and she used to dance in like the high school musicals and stuff. And I have a very distinct memory of being in the audience watching the musical and hearing dads around me like whisper, like, Gabriella's on stage. Like, like this, she was a 16-year-old girl, okay? But
Yeah.
she was always wildly insecure about how curvy she was.
Yeah.
And she had, she had a big booty. And everybody else thought she was hot, but she didn't conform to like the American, like petite, thin, waifish idea of like what is beautiful. And it's so crazy because like if she moved to Brazil, if she and her family moved back to Brazil, she would have the desired body type. And
Exactly.
women inject fat into their butts in Brazil, and that's such a normal thing.
Yeah.
So it's just like you can't win because you're never going to be perfect to anybody.
Exactly. But I
mean,
get
to everybody.
Once in a blue moon, though, I'm like, man, a quick trip to the DR, though. But no. So the other show that you have, which I've been a long time fan of, and I've been lucky enough to be on, is the Hot Mess Comedy Hour.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit. You've been on this journey with Andrea for a while now. What has been the rose and the thorn of having Andrea as your partner?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I do get asked this a lot. I feel like, especially, and not that you're doing this, but we go on podcasts together sometimes, and I find that people try to pit us against each other, like to find
I did
out,
it once.
Oh, what do you hate about each other? And it's so funny. It's like, sure, there are things that get under my skin about Andrea, but I love her. I wouldn't change a single thing about her.
Yeah.
Because then she wouldn't be hurt. But I guess if I had to pick something, it would be she is perpetually late. Like she just does not understand time. And but here's the thing, like I believe that anybody who claims to be a late person or like not understand time is just not trying hard enough. Because if there was something that you really, really felt pressured to impress somebody, like if you had an interview and you were dying to impress this person, there's not a chance in hell you would be late. So exactly. I feel disrespected when people are late, and I'm not I'm also not perfect about being on time, but I've made like a conscious effort to like, okay, this is how you show people that you respect them, by being on time. So that's one thing that bugs me. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else. Like,
but like what? And what would be the What would be the rose?
What would be
then?
the rose? Okay. I watched the Mr. Rogers documentary a little while ago. Did you watch it?
No.
Okay. First of all, you need to watch it. It was I cried, and I don't cry during movies. Like
that's why I haven't, because I'm like, I cry at commercials. It's ridiculous.
Okay, then maybe not. Maybe set it aside for an evening that you really, really need it.
Exactly.
But there was this one point in the Mr. Rogers documentary. Apparently, Mr. Rogers did this exercise with people that he would say, like, okay, and I might be fucking it up, but he would say, okay, let's take a moment of silence and just think about the people in your life that have helped you, like the people in your life that have gone out of their way to help you. So they did it in the movie. They did like a little reenactment, and you, the audience, have to do this exercise. And all the things that came to mind for me were all things that Andrea did for me. I mean, in the first year of our friendship, I moved into a new apartment. She volunteered to come help me paint. She has come over to help me clean when I was anxious. I suffer from anxiety, and it keeps me from being able to get tasks done. And I never, ever will ask for help because I think it's, a sign of weakness to ask for help. She goes out of her way to help me. She just will let me stand there and just clean my whole room. Just like so many of these selfless things that I never thought a friend could do. I knew that, family would do that for me, but I never thought that I would have a friend that was truly as thoughtful and just loves me as much as she does. I'm like getting emotional.
I know. Me too.
Yeah, so that would be the rose.
Oh, yeah. You remind me of me, and then the way you describe her reminds me of my best friend Minoria, like my relationship with Minoria, because it's like I get paid to do things for other people that
Mhm.
sometimes I get frozen and can't do for myself. I'm an executive assistant. Like, what?
Yeah,
But
you're basically in charge of somebody's life.
yeah, but then like sometimes like I can't do my dishes for a week, or like I'm so exhausted I won't cook for a week and I'm just ordering in, and like she might come and like help me cook some food for the week, or like
Oh,
I
that's
was
so sweet.
yes, and like I was feeling a little overwhelmed because it's like juggling the day gig, fortunate rants with my friend Maddie, now firing this one back up and trying to juggle everything myself, and I was a little bit like overbooking myself. And so we sat down this weekend and she was like, okay, let's plot out the next 2 months. I was like, okay, let's do that.
That's so, yeah, like things like that, like tasks that you just can never seem to get done. And I say it's because of my anxiety, but like I will even blame myself and call myself lazy. And lazy is like the biggest thing that I have always tortured myself. I always had this perception of myself that I was like this lazy person. And
Hmm.
it's not that I'm lazy, it's that I neglect these things because I find them so overwhelming that
Exactly.
I just never get started because I can't imagine being able to get done. And it's just this like overpowering force that I can't like get over in that moment.
Yeah.
Um, there was at one point when was working a job and I felt so hopeless. I wanted to quit my job, but I didn't know how. And she helped me budget so that I could quit my job and find a new place that cost less. And like, if it wasn't for her help doing that, I don't know that I would have gotten it together. Definitely not nearly when I did. I would have taken a
Yeah.
few more years probably.
Oh.
Yeah, you need to like find people like that in your life that will just go out of their way to help you. Like it's very, I've heard it said before, but it's so true. Like people's character should be judged not when it's convenient for them to
Yes.
do something for you, but like when it's hard and when
Yes.
they're like going out of their way to help you. Like I
Yes.
do not take that for granted at all.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I also relate to the having a hard time asking for help, because I have a
Yes.
hard time asking for help. And sometimes like I have to like I'm trying to catch myself before. So I used to spiral. Now it's borderline spiral. Now I'm trying to get ahead of the borderline.
Well, where does that come from, do you think? It
um
took me so long to figure out where it came from.
yeah, and it's just I've been getting better about, well, there's like a general overall, making sure that I'm sleeping well, making
Mhm.
sure that I'm fueled okay. But for example, like this year has been crazy in so many regards. And so there's
Could
been
say that
times,
again.
yeah, there's been times that I felt like, you know, and again, it's like, wah, wah, poor little rich girl. Like, I live in a nice apartment. I don't have a roommate. I was laid off this year, but I have a new job now. I have money in the bank, but I felt like I was drowning. Like, I really felt like I was drowning, and literally and physically and like emotionally, and like whether it was drowning, or like sometimes I would swim because I like to swim, and like I just was like, it was like I just was exhausted. I couldn't even like swim for more than 15 minutes because it
And you
was
were
just too
literally
much.
drowning.
Yeah. Yeah, so I finally reached out and asked for help. That was last week. And so that's when she came by this weekend, and we kind of like put together, kind of like an action plan
Oh,
and
that's
broke it
great.
down. I know. I'm so blessed to have her in my life.
Yeah.
Speaking of the crazy year, today just happens to be one of those Tuesdays that happens to be a thing. I kind of accidentally booked this today, and then once I realized it, I was like, she's the perfect person to.
I didn't realize it either until, well, the truth was I haven't taken this election day. Whoa, I need to be careful what I say. I take it seriously, but the day itself, I haven't been taking seriously because I know that all the absentees, we might not actually know anything tonight.
Exactly.
So, I haven't given it too much thought, but I did at one point today. I just stopped for a minute and I was like, damn, like this is a really, really important day. And I hope that everybody got out and voted. I voted early.
Yeah, I did too.
Good for you. We know. I'm not like, I feel like I can't say anything because
I know.
I don't want to jinx it. Like the last election, I said there was absolutely no way that Hillary would not win. And it was based on polling, and I know that the polling has gotten better and more accurate.
But even then, the good old little electoral college.
We don't know.
Yeah.
So
and the buffoonery.
I'm not going to make any claims either way. But I was in a bodega today getting a sandwich, and this woman was talking to the guy at the cash register. I think he owns the store, and she was saying, "Did you vote today?" And he was like, "Nah, I didn't vote today because honestly, either way, it's just some white man who's going to try to put me in jail." And I was like, honestly, I kind of see your point. Like, I voted, but I kind of see your perspective there.
Yeah, no, and I'm not mad, and I'm not mad at the people that vote third party. I'm not even mad at the people who are disillusioned and don't want to vote, because Biden wasn't my choice, but I also remember what it felt like to cry for hours and hours the day after Cittadini took it, and how much we've been pretty much in a continued state of torture, panic, pain, misery, anxiety for the last 4 years. Just emotionally assaulted damn near every single day by this administration, or even just himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's there's no certainty right now. There's just no certainty no matter where you look. It's like, even if Biden does get elected, what if in 4 years some other candidate who actually knows what they're doing, like Trump has been, Trump's a bigot and I cannot stand the guy, and he has done absolutely nothing positive for this country, but he kind of has been putzing around for 4 years, like talking a big game, not really doing anything. Things have been very stagnant. What if somebody who's actually like ultra conservative and experienced and knows what they're doing comes in, runs against Biden in 4 years, beats Biden, and then what if we have another situation on our hands that's potentially even worse, if we can even imagine that? Do you know what I mean? Like, possibilities and so much uncertainty.
My prediction has been that Ivanka will probably be the first woman president, and that she's getting groomed for that right now. Yes, I've been saying that for 2 years. Watch Ivanka be the one that becomes the first woman president. She's fully getting groomed for it right now.
Do you think so? How so?
Fuck yeah.
Like in the press and stuff like that?
No, being his right hand. Like, she has been the unofficial. She probably has more sway on that man than his entire cabinet.
Yeah. Well.
And she's been at tables with people who run the world, not even the country, the world.
She's rubbing elbows. Yeah, that's true. Listen, I can never say never. That's the thing. I can't ever say never anymore.
I was seeing tweets that there's Proud Boy trucks right now driving through Oakland. I mean, I'm in California.
Really? Oh
yes!
my God. No, it's horrifying. And it's just horrifying when I stop and think about, wow, I really do not live in the same country as most of the country. Like, I grew up thinking that things were a certain way, and they're not that way. And what does that mean? Does that mean something about me? Does that mean that I've had the wool over my eyes for this many years? It's just, I grew up in such a liberal bubble, and I just thought all
Nice and
reasonable
cradled.
people. Yeah, yes. I grew up, right outside New York City in a very liberal, very Jewish community. And that's what I thought smart people believed. That's just how I thought all reasonable people thought, and what they taught their kids and what they taught in schools. Like, that's what all reasonable people. And the truth is, yes, there are a lot of unreasonable people, or people who are uneducated, who might have voted for Trump because they've seen him on TV, but there are a lot of people in the middle too,
Yeah.
who are reasonable, and you meet them and you talk to them and you're able to have a conversation with them, and they're good people and they're not racist, or and for some reason they don't put two and two together. Like, your president literally said, grab them by the pussy. How
Mexicans bring their rapists and the drug dealers.
Yes. Like, how the fuck could a woman be married to you? Like, I met a guy who is a brother of one of my close friends, and he was wearing a MAGA hat when I met him. And I kind of froze. I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything about it, but I am going to ask my friend about it later, because that is fucking wild. And this guy has a fiance. He has a job. People look up to him and respect him and are friends with him. I don't understand the disconnect. I'm constantly trying to put it together in my head, and I just can't.
100 years from now, the MAGA hats will be the new Confederate flag.
Yes, absolutely. I think so.
Yeah. I'm so curious too, with you coming from a Jewish background, how does it feel to you? Like, I know how I feel as a Latina, bisexual woman, the assaults, you know what I mean? Kind of like emotional assaults. How does it feel to you to see the rise in like anti-Semitism, and people are just so blatant about it? I've never understood it. You know what I mean? Like, I've had Jewish friends, like, since I knew there was a difference between like religions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
yeah. I mean, I don't understand it either, because Jewish people are, we're white. Listen, we haven't always been white. There was a point in time when we were definitely not considered white, but now we are. So, like, even if you're racist, like, I'm not saying it's okay to be racist, but even if you're racist, I just don't understand. It feels super nitpicky to me to like point out the Jews as a different race. Like, how come we're the same race? We're the same race, 364 days out of the year, but then one day when some racist decides we're not. It's very strange to me. Also, I'm half Jewish. My father's Jewish and my mom is Protestant. And yeah, that's another thing that, like, I didn't grow up thinking that there was such a huge difference between people.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm constantly getting rocked. Like, my world is constantly getting rocked. This is like very, very personal, but my boyfriend is Jewish and was raised not Orthodox, but conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And his father does not consider me Jewish because
your mother's not.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So, I'm kind of halfway between, where like I don't have the right to be offended by anything, I don't think. And I'm also not offended by very much, because I don't really associate with myself with any nationality or any religion. But at the same time, I'm very proud to have that background. I'm very proud to have been educated in Jewish traditions and celebrated the holidays growing up, and to know that my parents were so like, it so wasn't a thing. Like, my sister married someone who's Irish Catholic. My brother's marrying someone who's Muslim, who was raised Muslim. It's just so not a thing. And not until recently have I had to educate myself more in like traditionalists and like how they came to be that way and where those beliefs come from. And I know it's not as simple as just saying, oh, like, why can't we all be friends? But that's how I was raised. So it's very counterintuitive for me.
I know. It's so interesting. My best friend that I mentioned, Minoria, she's Black and Jewish. And when you see her, you just see a Black woman, but her mom is a Jewish woman. And, you know,
Drake.
Yes. And I mean, you know, her grandfather was like a sailor that came out here to San Francisco like back in the 40s, and they've basically been living on the same hill ever since. And so I talk to her sometimes about her experience. You know, she's a rare San Francisco native, like most people are transplants to San Francisco. And then also being, you know, a Black Jewish woman, you know, they celebrate the holidays. And, you know, she has a daughter now, and they, you know, I was there when they were doing the song for Hanukkah, and I'm just like, oh, this is so cute.
I Judaism is such an interesting religion, because every other religion, it seems, I mean, certainly Christianity, but even like most other religions are very, very open to people taking on that religion. Mm-hmm. And Judaism is the only one where, despite the fact that we've virtually been eradicated, and there's not very many of us, we're kind of like, no, we don't want you. Like, there is this attitude, like, don't even convert. We don't even want you. Like, nah, we don't want you muddying the waters. It's very strange to me. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's wonderful. Like, I think Judaism is also, because there's not so many of us, there is this community that I think is so important for people of Jewish descent to be educated about the history and to understand the traditions, because it's beautiful. Like, and if there is a religion that spoke to me, Judaism would be the one that speaks to me the most. Probably that, or Buddhism, because I do think Buddhism is a beautiful religion too. But yeah, I'm an atheist.
Same. So. Yeah, same. You know, my mom was pretty not religious at all growing up. Now, like, she's like non-denominational church going or whatever. But
interesting.
I know, it's so interesting. And then my dad's side, they were Catholic, but it was also the family business. And so to me, I immediately at a very young age, priests? Well, so my grandfather owned like a religious artifacts and bookstore.
Oh, and so we have one of those in my neighborhood.
Librería Sagrada Familia. And it was like my first job when I was a kid. But to him, like, my grandmother was the really religious one, but I feel like my grandfather saw it more like a business. And because there was a lot of money in it. I mean, obviously, like, Puerto Rico's very poor right now. People aren't like running around spending money on like books and statues of the Virgin Mary. But it was a big deal back then.
The Bible is the best-selling book of all time.
Yes, exactly. So and so
I actually don't know that. I know it's the most read book of all time, but I don't know if it's the best selling.
Probably one of. And so at a very young age, I kind of saw it as a business. And then growing up, knowing different people, like, I've been to Santeria ceremonies. I've been to a Jehovah's Witness temple.
What was that like?
It was interesting. It felt a little oppressive, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I've always been so curious about Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, and
I do think it's kind of badass to be like, we don't celebrate holidays. Like, there's something about that that's so stone cold that I respect it. Like, you can't even go to a birthday party. Like, I knew a girl growing up who was Jehovah's Witness. She couldn't come to my birthday party, and I was so upset. Not for myself, for her. I was like, you can't miss this party. But
being somebody who rebelled and then went back to the religion was interesting. So, like, my friend at that time, he was raised Jehovah's Witness. Then when I met him, he was like a club monster. You know, we're out here doing all kinds of gay shit and blah, 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 and da, 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 da. And I lost touch with him because we just ended up having like a very toxic friendship over the years. But last time I like asked somebody, he had gone full blown like Zionist, like gay, homosexuality is a sin. And like, yeah. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is so insane. I don't understand how you look in the mirror and see the same person when you make a choice like that. Also, like how you can say to people, like he probably doesn't keep in touch with anybody that he knew in his clubbing days, because if you did, like I would never, that's why I could never convert to anything, like purely because I couldn't look people in the eye and be like, yeah, I believe in Jesus now. Like they would look at me and be like, Emily, I watched you like snort cocaine off a coffee table. Like that's not, no. You can't just decide you're going to heaven now.
Mine is, Mariana, you did cocaine off of my ass.
I've never done cocaine off an ass. Truthfully, I've only done cocaine that one time, but it was off a coffee table with 2 virtual strangers.
Yeah, sounds like a party.
Yep.
Well, speaking of parties, we have reached the portion of the show where we play silly, silly little games. And I was like racking my brain. I was like, oh, do I do like a 90-Day Fiance or like a rom-com version of what I did with Andrea Allen, which was like, well, Andrea, date them. But it was all like crazy people. But I was like, no, the world is too crazy enough as it is. So let's lean into that crazy. So the game that we have today is, which apocalyptic movie would you rather be in?
Oh, okay. I hope I've seen these movies because I haven't seen a lot of them.
It's okay. And it's a short game. I Am Legend versus 12 Monkeys.
Oh, I have seen both of those. I would definitely rather be. So, am I a main character? Or I'm just like a supporting.
You're
character?
In the world. That's the world that you live in. Mm-hmm.
I would want to be an I Am Legend so that I could save that fucking dog.
Oh,
that's another movie that I cried in. Oh my God. Oh wow. That just came flooding back to me. I bawled my fucking eyes out when he had to kill that dog.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
If you haven't seen it.
Yeah, 20-year-old movie.
Well, Hamda. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
The Perfect Storm versus Waterworld.
I don't know either of those movies. I'm sorry. Waterworld sounds fun.
It's one of the ones that I pick when I say which movie are we living the prequel to right now. So yeah.
Can you give me like the abridged, like what's the concept of that movie?
So Perfect Storm is basically like sailor type movie. Mm-hmm. They're on a ship. They're out in the middle of the ocean, and like just perfect storm hits. Like you're just like man versus nature. Waterworld is basically, in theory, if the ice caps keep melting and the water keeps rising, that's the world that we end up in. It's basically like Mad Max, but on water. Okay. So is it like the skyscrapers, like the tops of the buildings are peeking out, or are we completely underwater? It's like Mad Max, but underwater. On water. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna switch Perfect Storm because I fucking love sailing movies. Like it's something that you wouldn't think I would be into, but I'm so into it. Like movies with like that Robert Redford movie where he's like stuck on the boat in the middle of the ocean and needs to like fight his way out. Like I just go crazy for the drama of that. So I would probably pick that, even though it's terrifying idea. If I remember correctly, one of the iconic scenes is that the boat basically goes like this on a wave. Okay, so like the front of the ship straight up. Damn. Okay, yeah, terrifying. In real life, I would be shitting myself, but you're like, hey, yeah. In Fantasyland, yeah, put me on a boat and stick me in the middle of a storm. Sure. Yeah, and Trump's not the president. Titanic versus Cabin Fever. Oh my God, I love this one. This is so hard, by the way. I'm gonna go Cabin Fever because fucking Ryder Strong is in it, and he was like my biggest childhood crush. So even if I die, I would find a way to fuck Ryder Strong. And I feel like the odds of surviving might be on your side for Cabin Fever versus Titanic. Well, if I know what's going to happen, I would just leave the cab. You know what I mean? Like in these scenarios, if I'm on Titanic,
I already know we're going to hit the iceberg. So I just steal one of the lifeboats. Like, I could find my way out.
You're like, I'm a lady, I'm a child.
Exactly. I'll just put an adult diaper on and just play the odds.
Wally versus Snowpiercer.
Oh, I haven't seen Snow.
Highly recommend it.
Wait, have I seen it? No, that same director did another movie that's really, really good.
Yeah, the Parasite one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's on my list. I do want to see it, but I think Wall-E, like, to be on the plane, what do you call it? The aircraft. Yeah, the aircraft where like all the humans live on now and they get really fat. I think I would thrive. Like, I really think I would thrive in that environment, just like in my wheelchair, my automatic operated wheelchair with my TV dinner, just enjoying. Like, that's basically what life in quarantine is like.
Yes.
And I'm thriving. I mean, people get upset when I say that, but I am. So I think I would do pretty well.
We lean into it. Last one, Mad Max Fury Road or The Purge?
Oh my God.
By the way, I watched all of the Purge movies in the last week as research.
I haven't seen any of them, but I know enough about them. God, definitely Mad Max. And I would try to make friends with the tit crew, like the gang of models that somehow make it through the desert and are strong enough to like be thrown off of a truck and then able to catch up. And yeah,
one of them's pregnant.
Oh my God, yeah, like totally reasonable. They're also straight off the runway. Like, these women have no energy to be running after a truck. But you know what? That's where I come in, right? Because I'm so strong that I would be the anchor. I would stay on the truck. And then when the models are running after the truck, I would grab them and I would hoist them onto the truck. And that would be like my role.
If you ever need a date for an improv party, Emily Lubin is your gal.
Oh, thank
what
you so
a
much.
yes. And ladies and gentle people, yes. God. So we'll round this out. You're helping me break this in. I had the speed round that I've asked you and Andrea before. I used the same card for years, but I have retired the previous speed round. We have new speed round questions.
Oh my God. Okay.
Speed round V point those. How does Emily Lubin start her day?
I wake up, I make coffee, and I kind of just stare at the wall.
What's the favorite thing about the place you live in?
I just moved into a new place. Wait, do you mean city or home?
You interpret it however you want.
I just moved into a new place. My favorite part is that I have my own fucking bathroom, and I haven't had my own bathroom in legit 15 years.
You are thriving in the pandemic.
Yes, I am.
What is something you never leave the house without?
Lip balm.
Okay. Zombie apocalypse is coming, although it might already be here. Who are the 3 people you want on your survival squad?
Okay. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. For obvious reasons.
Because you want to bone him.
Yeah, duh. Yeah, what if I just pick all sexy guys? Timothy Chalamet, Shia LaBeouf. You know what? Let's go with those 3.
Yeah, sounds like a fun zombie apocalypse. What is one important life skill that everyone should have?
Oh, man. I think listening, like really listening to people and asking the right questions, just listening skills. More people need them, I think.
What is an Emily Lubin guilty pleasure?
Love Island.
Would not have expected that.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with Love Island. Obsessed. I watch it while I clean. I actually am a way cleaner person now since I started watching Love Island. Like, I should have been watching this for years. I actually do laundry now.
It's the secret sauce.
Yes, because you don't need to pay very close attention and you still absorb everything.
You just have it in the background.
Mm-hmm.
What is one word friends would use to describe you?
Honest.
What is your favorite emoji?
Oh, I love the dancing man, and I also love the one that with the little smiley face that I don't exactly know what it is. It could be a hug or it could be a like yay, like with
this one.
Yeah, with the two hands.
Yeah. And I use it for both. I use it for hugs and I use it for yays.
Same. It's very versatile.
Yes, we love emojis. And the last question, what would you like to be remembered for?
I don't really need to be remembered.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm good. Like once I'm buried, that's it, really.
She's like, forget about me now already.
Like, I honestly, like, I do kind of like want to not exist, which is crazy because like I do things that are public for my career, but like I do fantasize sometimes about disappearing, like just moving somewhere and making jam for a living or something, changing my name and just never giving anyone my new address.
I could totally see you in some updated, much cleaner Grey Gardens.
Absolutely. Oh, inspo. Me and my mom did kind of live like that for a few years.
Gosh.
Not far off.
On that note, Miss Emily Lubin, where can the people find you on the social medias?
You can follow me at Lubination. That's LUBINATION. Yeah, follow me for, some fire content and selfies. And you can also listen to my podcast, Hot Mess Comedy Hour, can be found anywhere podcasts are found. And my other podcast is called RIP Diets. And again, that's about smashing diet culture and therefore smashing the fucking patriarchy. And you can find that anywhere podcasts are available.
Yes, I just had this vision of like the smashing robot game, and that's like you smashing the patriarchy. Well, you can always find me on Twitter, MeMeCherry. If you want to find me on Instagram, add an IG to it, MeMeCherry IG. You are listening to Series of Fortunate Events. Check out my spinoff with Maddie Rants on YouTube. It's called Fortunate Rants, and we have merch now.
Ooh, it's cute.
Thanks. So buy some merch, bitches. And with that, we say bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Toodaloo.
MeMeCherry presents a series of fortunate events. Fortunate events. Fortunate events. Series of fortunate events.